This is Tuna on Toast.
Before Chris gets here, I have to make sure the street is all wet. And now, I have to make sure the gate is locked. Now we're ready for Chris. Okay, I think Chris is here. Is Chris here?
Hey, buddy.
Do you want the worst joke of all time?
Yes.
The gate is locked.
Let me jump in.
Yeah, jump in. And then, okay, no, it's not even locked. You could have walked right in.
What's up, buddy?
Thank you.
How
for coming
are you,
over.
Sean?
Nick, what's up, man?
I like your shirt.
Wow. We're gonna be adding you. These are all the guests that have been on my show.
I love it.
Incredible.
Man, I want one of those.
Yes, we're gonna.
Awesome.
Well, we have 5 guests over the next 6 days. We're gonna make. We've only made 2 shirts, by the way.
Well,
he has one and I have one. That's it.
That's great. I'm gonna take a picture of that one before we leave.
Awesome.
But look at this good company all of these friends
Yes,
are in.
Lars Pedersen, Dave Gahan,
Wow.
Third Eye Blind, Bishop Briggs, Phineas, K Flake,
Sick.
Brett, Bad Sons were here, Rise Against.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a nice.
Davey's on there.
Yeah, Davey Havoc was here.
Holy moly. Tom was here.
Yeah.
Everybody. All the Toms. Morello.
Yeah, all
your
the Toms.
Your Morellos, your DeLons. Amazing.
All right. Good to see you too. Hey, man. All right, Chris, watch your head. Don't chirp here.
I don't ever have to watch my
That's
head.
that's your. We got your records.
You know what?
That's your
I'm
tune.
seeing it in person. This is amazing. Oh, I love it. Oh, sorry.
Oh. We're ready to do this in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tuna on Toast. I am Ted Stryker, and our guest today has been a very important part of our lives for many years, and he just released a brand new record, which I have in my hand right here. Chris Carrabba, Dashboard Confessional, is at my house. Chris!
Stryker, this is the first time, Stryker, that I'm seeing this in the wild. Like I've seen them. The artwork, the albums, I know they exist. I saw them from the stage the other night where we did this like pre-sale show or whatever. I saw people holding them up, but this is as close to any of them as I've been. This feels really real right now.
Okay, so let's get straight to this album, because as we are sitting here today, the full length, all of this is available in like 7 hours from now.
Yeah.
So do you feel this many years into your career, anxiety, nerves, or just excitement? Like, what is it like for you?
Like, well, generally speaking, I'm always feeling anxiety and nerves is a blanket statement. Yeah, I do. I still feel it. I mean, how can you not? You know, you work on something under a microscope for a long time, and also in kind of solitude. It's not like a real shared experience, and suddenly this is the part where I get to share it, but where I feel I get to share it. And I don't mean share it with the world. I mean share it with the individual people as they come across it. It's a lovely thing to feel, but it is nerve-wracking.
Over the last, let's just go 3 months leading up to today.
Yeah.
Have you been tinkering with the songs at all, or were you patient and know, like, I did all the work. We went in the studio, we did it. It's great how it is. I'm not going to get in my own head.
That's impossible.
Okay.
That's impossible to leave it alone. But isn't that the joy of it, I think? Like, that's why 20 some odd years after putting out my first Dashboard record, I can still play songs from that record, because I'm not trying to replicate that moment. I probably made that mistake as a younger man, but instead I'm letting that moment be malleable and may let it evolve. And I'm already feeling like I'm doing that with the songs on this record in a way that's probably like most evident in at least subtle choices. I don't know that I can tell you I'm going to change the keys of these songs or make them a jazz standard or something like that.
Yeah.
No way. But they're starting to evolve already.
Where do you think you have the guts to get on stage in front of a crowd with, at times, it's just you and that guitar, and sing the way you do with these honest lyrics? Because I believe that is an underrated trait that humans have, to be able to do that.
I don't know where it comes from. I don't have that kind of like deep set confidence that somebody with a genuinely good voice will have. You know, they just know their craft so well. They know that will carry the day. What I have, though, is a bit of a belief in the songs I've written, and and I've learned over time to believe in the audience. You know, you're not going to win over every person in every room, but you're going to win somebody over. And so that's the piece of the puzzle that makes me get across the threshold and onto the stage.
Is that one of the goals for live shows, is to potentially win somebody over who was just dragged to a dashboard show with their screwball friend?
I think so. I think it's in there for me. And it's something that's necessary for me and that I like, because I have a bit of a competitive spirit on a small scale thing. You know, it just keeps you motivated to do those things. So my two objectives, three maybe, like you want to do the best job you can ever do when you walk on stage. You have that in your mind. Like you got to be careful with superlatives, as a friend told me. You know, how can there be more? By definition, there can't be more than one best show.
Right.
But you can't help but hope that tonight is the one. You know, so you're going out there trying to deliver that deep conviction, best performance you've ever given in your life every single night, every single time. But then you're also like hoping the people that have embraced your music will have a unique experience in that moment. And then under all that, you're just hoping like, yeah, can I win over that one person that was dragged here or that was given it another chance for some reason, you know?
What makes a great show? Is it, like, if you can put a percentage on it, like how important is the audience to how you feel mentally after your last note? Is it their reaction they're giving you? Is it how your voice sounded to you? Is it that you played perfect guitar that night, the band was on point?
Is it possible to be 100% the audience?
Yes.
I mean, when I'm with the band, that's a different story, because I'm really wowed by the musicianship, the level of musicianship of the players in my band. It's just incredible. And I can walk off with that kind of awe, like, wow, like, because I'm lucky to play. I know that in the moment. I'm lucky to play with these guys and women. And but if it's just me by myself, I certainly am just that. The audience is the band, and so that's 100. I would almost say 100%.
Okay.
But that's the thing. I've never walked off going, man, I crushed it on guitar today. I've never gone off stage without ever saying to myself, man, you're not as good as you should be. I've never walked off going like, man, my voice among all voices. Never. There are times though when I've felt like I will give myself this. There are times where and hopefully it's many times where I've just felt like I've really gotten deep inside the song and myself, and it's translated to more than was there before.
Here it is again. All the truth that I can tell. Somehow, and I don't know, it's because you're talented, obviously, it feels nostalgic, but fresh and new when I listen to this. You are not trying to just like, I'm going to be this. It's like, I'm writing this for 2020. This is my interpretation. I'm writing this for 2022, but from the very first note on this, Chris, it was taking me back to a place of music that helped shape my taste, but it felt like, oh my God, I want to continue with every one of these songs. So when you went to write this album, first of all, did this happen mostly before the pandemic?
It happened. Yes, it did start. Yeah. Yes, actually. Yes. As I backdated here in my mind. Yes, it was right before.
And so where did the inspiration for these lyrics and these songs come from then?
You know, it's a similar place of inspiration from my first two records. So if there's any relationship there,
the Swiss Army Romance, like in 2000 or so.
Yeah, and the Places You've Come to Fear the Most in 2001.
Yeah, right after.
So which was, you know, those were only separated by like 3 months or 4 months or something like that. And it was just, I'd gotten to this place as a writer in that time that I would find was unique in my life until this moment. So I'd longed for getting back there. I tried to manufacture it. It was available to me in smaller bits along the course of my career, and they were really rewarding. But this place that I'd been where I could write a batch of songs that would become a record in that same mindset and keep it going for from song to song and not get, frankly, burned out, because it's a taxing thing to be asking yourself hard questions and be willing to give yourself revealing answers in song. So, you mentioned nostalgia. How could it be? I think I'd been looking for that connection to a place I'd been just in terms of inspiration, as I said. When I found it, I thought I'd lean into what I'd found that first time, which was, these songs carry the weight just as unadorned this time as they did way back then. So I was cognizant of like, there's a relationship here to that. I'm gonna let them just be as sparse as I can, because the cutting nature of the question is more effective that way, and hopefully the answer was too.
Yes, and so who did you work with in the studio? The producer?
I worked with James Paul Wisner, who did my earliest records.
Right.
I mean, predating Dashboard, he did my band, the Bacon Andes, before that, and he did the Further Seems Forever record, The Moon Is Down. He did
Further Seems Forever? Really?
He did all their records.
Wow.
He did all three singers' records. But specifically, one of my favorite times working with James ever was on The Moon Is Down. Marvelous producer, went on to a successful career, kind of shaping what a certain branch of emo would sound like for a certain generation.
For sure, yes.
And so I came back to work with him, and I also got to work with some people in the studio that were assisting, like Shannon MacArthur and Danny Lacouture. But James was a return as the head of the whole ship, as the captain of the ship. Returning to that was like the only solution, and also a pure victory. You're looking at I'm looking at the demos I have, which were, not poured over. They were just, voice memos. And I'm saying to myself, there's only one right person to make this record. Only one person probably can. Because there's only one person I knew that could draw more out of me and out of the song, while allowing the song to be as sparse, that I've worked with so far. And that was James. So it's kind of a Herculean effort to imbue more while doing even less and less.
Did you meet with him more than one time, 20 times before starting this record? Because you're not the same person in all ways that you were in 99, 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're in a different place. So is he.
Yeah.
The magic, no, it's not guaranteed that it's going to happen.
No, I was never in doubt, but you're right, it wasn't guaranteed. And I think we'd circled each other to do records again together, and for reasons who knows why at this point. The stars didn't align. As friends, we kept and as colleagues, we kept good tabs on each other and in touch with each other. But it's a whole different deal, man. It's like having a love affair or something like that when you make a record together. It's intensely emotional and collaborative, and you're just so deeply in it. You're committed, right? So in that way, it's truly a relationship. So we'd had one before. Could it be the same in the future? I didn't know, but I'd hoped it was better this time. It was even better.
In 1998, 99, 2000 range, was there any doubt in your mind that you were going to be a professional musician? Was that it? You're not going to be a waiter at a nice restaurant. You're not going to go continue school. What was your mindset then?
1999, I was aware that I would never be a professional musician. I thought that I would be a person who never stopped making music in a professional manner, and even touring. And, in the world I come from, that's like a total doable thing. You've got, famously in punk rock, you've got one guy was a professor and lead singer of a huge band, another guy who was a scientist and the lead singer of another huge band. I thought I could be less lofty. I could be a middle management at a grocery store or something and keep doing music, or I could be a teacher, which was the path I was on, and keep doing music. Being in Further started to change my viewpoint of that. I thought I could do them in equal measure once I was in Further. Dashboard, I thought the same thing until about a year passed of doing Dashboard. And then I thought, okay, I see how you could eke out a living doing this.
Out a living,
yeah.
Okay.
But then something happened with this rapid succession of my first two records. So I really am talking about the time period of the places you've come to fear the most, really.
Yeah.
But it's only extended by 6 months or something like that. I can't remember. I would say it was during 2001 that I went, oh, okay, right. Yeah, okay. This is the lane, and this will be it forever. If I really do everything I can to be protective of how rare that is. And it's paid. I think it's paid off. This is my only job.
Absolutely. Right.
And
right.
that was the dream. And it's still the dream. There's a lot of there's bigger dreams I've had along the way, and I've attained some of those too, and not others. But the original dream holds true. Can you just be a musician?
That was pre-MySpace, pre-Twitter. You couldn't, for the most part, you couldn't just put a song out there and potentially in 2 weeks it goes viral.
Sort of, because there was Napster.
Napster.
And soon there would be LimeWire. And that was, or maybe they were concurrent, but that was the way it happened for me. Napster and LimeWire and file sharing was the equivalent of what going viral was now on a smaller scale then. And for a kid that had no distribution even.
You were in Florida, right?
I was in Florida, and I was on a label in Florida called Fiddler Records, which was a great label. And Amy Fleischer, who ran the company, Amy Fleischer Madden now, was a genius in her way, but still a young company with only so much distribution. But she leaned into the Napster thing at cost of her own, maybe successful financial endeavor, and just said, this is the way we can connect with people and move your band forward.
Wow, that is so smart.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know about it that well because I couldn't afford a laptop even, or a computer. So, I remember going to the library to check out what Napster was when she told me about it. And it was transformative for me, and it would become a detriment to the way business would work as it existed. Right. It would become almost it was fractious. It was probably the worst thing that ever happened to the music business, but it was the best thing that ever happened to my career personally.
The music business did not know what was coming. They were not ready for it. They needed to pivot, and some executives did a horrible job thinking, this is going to be nothing. But then, as you just said, as an artist, it really, really helped you. That is really helped incredible to hear.
And that's because it was person to person. And that's what our scene was built on, right? The pop punk scene, the punk rock scene, emo scene, the indie rock scene was about sharing music with your friends. And it just broadened the scale with which you could do that.
Brett Gurewitz from Bad Religion, where the singer is incredibly smart in Bad Religion, by the way, was talking about a huge reason for a lot of the Bad Religion success and some of the artists on his label is because he gave the music away for free to the surf videos and the Tony Hawk stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just knew. I didn't care about the money. I knew in the long run that was going to help. It's not the exact same thing you were mentioning, but it's almost the same.
It's and I can tell you on the user end, right, to use a common term from now, specifically, that's how I found so much music that would be transformative in my life, was by his design. The surf videos that I would watch and the skate videos I would watch when I was just a kid that was on a skate team at a store and on rainy days would watch the videos and just kind of write down all the songs when the credits would come down. What was that song? What was that song? And then go to the record store and order them or find the indie record store finally and they'd have them in stock. And it translated to sales. And probably at that time, now it probably doesn't, then in my period, it probably didn't as much, but it didn't, it still translated to the same kind of dedication, the hunt. I'm going to find this band. I'm going to buy their T-shirt. I'm going to buy a ticket. That was the most important thing. I want to be there and experience these songs with this band, which has been the thing that I wanted more than anything as a kid and then as an artist later, was to just be at the show with people and play and see how this music felt as a shared experience.
Who are some of the artists that you remember specifically hearing in the skate videos and surf videos?
I mean, specifically Fugazi and Minor Threat were like an early one. Operation Ivy was this eureka moment for me in skate videos, which I think was like the H Street videos with Matt Hensley. And then I probably, you mentioned Brett, and I probably went through their whole catalog. I ordered their catalog. Wow. You could, from the mail-in, that you got for free.
Yes.
I did the same with Fat Records. Later with Revelation Records. There were a lot of Rev bands on those skate videos too. That would, and Equal Vision, all these, you began to have this trust of label identity. So first you had the music curated to you through the thing you were into in the first place. For me, it was skateboarding and ancillarily surfing, from the community that I lived in, Florida, beach town in Florida.
Right.
And it translated into like this kind of reliance on like, you're being curated to by this label, and you start to have, when it was done well, like you just trusted whatever that, what Brett was going to put out, I was going to buy. It didn't have to hear it first.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many bands I've loved for a lifetime that I bought just on the strength of which label they were on.
Amazing.
And I don't know whether that happens now. I know that it was true of like Vagrant Records when I was there. I thought that was true for the period we were on it. Like I felt like you could kind of rely on that. Curated taste, Equal Vision. I mean, not to go into the whole, but I'm going down memory lane now, thinking of the labels that I trusted so much, and the bands I fell in love with for a lifetime were sight unseen in some, or unheard in in most cases.
What led you to delivering your music the way you do sonically and singing, when you were listening to some bands that maybe could fall under the same umbrella, but don't sing in that way? Like, you're not screaming at me in your songs. It's a much different delivery.
I think credit where credit is due to the scene I'm from. South Florida, hardcore and punk and pop punk scene, and whatever passed for indie rock in the time, and even like ska, and even like, I guess, well, I can't think of any singer-songwriters that were in that area besides me at the time. There would be some popping up around. There was culturally a moment happening there. But there wasn't enough. There was enough positive mental attitude in the way that, like, I celebrate like that even in music with my fandom of H2O, for example.
Yeah.
But there was that kind of like, we can do it, and we can do it our way, and we can do it together. And there was this inclusivity that was spurred by that attitude, but coupled with the fact that it was so small of a scene. You really couldn't have an all punk show or an all hardcore show or an all ska show. If you did, I mean, you could do it, but it would be smaller. But for everybody to feel included and for everybody to be at their best and have the best show, you were going to just kind of marry them all. And so it wasn't a terrible leap after being in, like, I was in these bands that sounded like Quicksand at the time, post-hardcore stuff. For us to be playing with Newfound Glory or Shylud, these, pop punk bands and hardcore bands, or the Jive Step Bunch, which is this big ska band from where we were. For all of us to be playing together was not out of the ordinary. There was no off limits feeling that that I didn't know you would find in other scenes. Like that doesn't belong here. So when I came along to this place the evolution of just my interest in songs came to this place of like, here I am in Further Seems Forever, which is this mathy rock emo band.
Yes, yeah.
Post-hardcore math rock emo band, hard to define where we fit in. And then I'm like, well, I've got all this complication here. That's part of the tenet of our music making, is like weird time signatures and so on. I wanted something austere on the other side of things just to balance it out. And I found myself leaning into that, and didn't feel unwelcomed to play those songs. And you know what? I want to tell you one more thing. Like, I think maybe it would have had a place that probably screamed a little bit too much in my acoustic setting to be invited to play at a coffee shop. But I just didn't know that bands like that, when you're a singer-songwriter, you're supposed to go play a coffee shop and then you maybe go and play a club, and then maybe you climb up that way, and which is the way I imagine. I don't know whether this is true, but I would think maybe somebody like John may have come up even so, it's like thinking to play, okay, well, you go there because it's a good setting for the kind of music I made back when he was just like remarkably playing these acoustic guitar songs. It didn't occur to me to do that. I didn't know that was a thing, and I've still never played at a coffee shop.
And I don't know, I'm sure you recognize this. There are some humans out there who want to go to shows where the singers are screaming and yelling, there's moshing, whatever, and those same humans would hear 3 lyrics from Chris Carrabba and be like, you know what? I'm getting that same emotional feeling from this dude right here. Could you feel that? You're like, I can't believe this person is at my show and they're digging it.
I could feel it, and I felt like, but I was like that guy, that person, or that girl, that young person. I was one of them, and if I was out there in the audience, I would have been feeling the thing that they were feeling from the hardcore band.
Yeah.
So maybe there was that shared experience that we had, and then I had the good fortune of like early on in my career, career as it was in the early days of getting shows, it was like with punk bands that were my friends, starting to be around the country. But then early on, it was like Face to Face and H2O and Snapcase that took me on my first. New Found Glory took me on my first tour. Face to Face took me on the first like kind of grander tour, like where they were like a really big band, and it was H2O, Snapcase H2O, and Face to Face.
Were you open? Were you first up in that?
I was first up, and it was like that's a pretty heavy bill.
Hell yes.
There's a lot of melody happening in all those bands, and certainly on the Face to Face end of things, it's like much more pop punk in the vein of Social Distortion in that lineage. But Snapcase is heavy and hardcore, and H2O is like youth crew and hardcore, and all those bands had decided I was okay. So I like went up there with this fear that I was going to like be a disappointment to the audience, but
God.
understanding that like I did get picked to do this because they all see a certain commonality here in what I'm doing.
And an appreciation. They're not going to take someone who they do not appreciate the talent and the skill and what this artist is doing.
Yeah. And Face to Face is the ones who made the decision. I imagine there was, who knows if they discussed who this new kid was with all the bands. But I know that by the first show, I walked in there with all those bands. Like, I'll never forget the pep talk that like Toby from H2O gave me in the first day of like.
Toby Morse, right? Yeah.
Toby Morse from H2O. Just, you belong here. And this is going to be, this is special. And you've got to believe in your convictions and, be here all the way here. And, I did because of that. I was scared. I wasn't great some nights because of it was a not Herculean. It was a Herculean task actually. It felt,
yes, for sure.
but anyway, all this to say, this was the lane I knew. I didn't know other music scenes, and everywhere along the way, I felt some resistance, but I had somebody in my corner going like, no, this is right. Stay the course. It's hard, but keep going. And thank God for that.
That's amazing. Those bands you mentioned welcomed you like that, because there are some bands who they bring someone out on the road with them, and it's like, no, you can't have a dressing room. Yeah. There's 3 band members, and the headliner, we're taking all 3 dressing rooms, change in your dirty van that you have out there. Yeah. So all the bands, I've heard so many great stories of guests on this show who say that the band that took them out was so important to their entire career because of the confidence that they got from this particular band. And it sounds like a very similar thing right there with you and those guys.
It was true of those guys. It was true of the network of bands I came up with. When I think about those earliest shows with Thursday, those earliest days getting to know My Chemical Romance, those early days with New Found Glory, and how many of us, specifically Floridian ones too, but also like just from around our network, succeeded is unlikely. It's weird to look back, but I think that we all had one other thing in common besides our taste in music and how we were presenting it, which was the inclusivity and the understanding of what you kind of posited there, which was treat people well, which I don't know that I did at no one bats 1,000, right? So I surely hope though that I think I have, but I surely hope that I was as good to people in the way that people were good to me, with the understanding of how far that really does go. And honestly, I've been treated badly too, and that goes really far also. So at the end of the day, it's all this stuff is about community. Like your music you put out is for the community you're making with your fans. The business you run as a touring act is about the community you build with your peers. And it's not really about like, how can I be the most amazing, whatever it is. It's really about how can we do this in a special way.
You have never fallen off the radar even remotely once. There are artists who started at a similar time than you, not the ones who have been doing it for a while, and they had good songs and they had people that cared about them. And I always try to think, and I don't have a thesis on this or anything, like what happened over a certain amount of years where people lost interest in some artists, but with others, it's the opposite. And in 2022, it's even stronger than it was in 03, 04, 05, 06, in that range.
What is that? What's the metric? I don't know. I don't know. I think about that a lot because I feel really lucky. Because certainly the like cultural moment that emo had, it moved on. And
but something's happening right now.
Something's
Obviously,
happening
everybody
again.
knows that, right? I mean, you mentioned Thursday. They're going to be at the When We Were Young Festival in MyCam and Paramore, and you guys, of course.
And then look like further down the bill, and what I see is like, what like they deserved to stay, you know, in the conversation. And they have to some extent, a lot of these bands, but where the zeitgeist kind of moved on from my scene and me to some extent, but I don't think I felt it in the same way because I like my shows didn't get materially smaller. My audience didn't get materially smaller. So when I see that bill, I'm like, oh, okay, great. I didn't have that like, oh, we're back for me.
Right.
But I felt like, oh, we're back. Me, the kid that was a part of the scene, passing out flyers back in the day, and championing my favorite bands. I'm seeing some of those bands get the attention that I would love to see last, because I've thought they've deserved it the whole time.
Wow.
It's good to see it.
Yeah, 100%. I can't wait to be in Vegas for one of those 3 shows, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to go down, who's going to be where. Do you know how many stages there are?
I know nothing.
You don't know anything, okay.
And I don't think I want to know anything more than like, I don't want to know anything logistical yet. I don't think I want to know till I show up. But I do know when I show up, I'm going to be poring over the sheet, the day sheet, so I can figure out how to see this band and that band, and figuring out how do I do it out there in the audience, because that's where I like to see. It's fun to see bands side stages that we're in this together feeling, but man, I want to be out there in the crowd. I can't wait for that.
Do you like Vegas? Have you ever gone to Vegas without doing a show because you like blackjack or you play roulette or you want to get a massage or something?
I never have.
Yeah.
No, some of us are designed for Vegas, and some of us are me, I guess. And I'm not really well designed for Vegas. But I will be there for quite a number of days this time. So I think I'll fall more deeply in love with the Vegas experience this time. But I'm also, it's just like anywhere else. Like most of the time, I'm just in for the show day and then whisked out for the next place. Yeah. So it'll be nice to be able to get to really know Vegas for the first time, like for a length of time.
More than 20 years in the business, how difficult was it for you personally, if at all, maybe 0%, navigating the music business? It's so much more than just, I'm writing a song, I'm putting it out, people are going to like it, I hope. Maybe it's going to be on a radio station. Maybe it's going to get some videos. Like, is it tough? Was it tough?
Yeah, it sucks.
It does?
Yeah, it's bullshit. It sucks so hard. I mean, it's like necessary and warranted, I guess. But it's just, it's the least fun of any of it. And I've been lucky. I've liked everyone that we've worked with. I hear horror stories. I don't have too many. I have things I've liked better than other things, but generally speaking, it's not my favorite. It's the music business is not my favorite thing.
Right.
I have made some of my favorite friends though through the music business, and for that I feel pretty lucky.
Yeah. Was there a moment, I don't know, when it was Hands Down or Screaming Infidelities early on, or when you had the song in the Spider-Man movie, where you ever felt like too much was happening, or I've been waiting for this for years, for this to go down like this?
I've never felt like that. I've never felt the latter. I've never felt like that. Oh, I've been waiting for this.
Oh.
The whole time has been like wait, what? What? We can do that now? Or this group of people care about what we're doing or what I'm doing? Yeah, I've never had that. I don't have that kind of personality, Stryker. I don't have that bigger than life thing that I admire in so many artists that I love. So I'm shocked at every stage. But I have had the awareness of like, oh, this has changed, and it's changed for good. I think I had that like in the early days, you mentioned like Hands Down or Screaming Infidelities. It was more like this wide-eyed, wait, what do you do? How do you do this? I was wide-eyed to the new experience. By the time we got Unplugged, it was like this, MTV Unplugged, it was like this,
yes.
It was like, okay. We've officially we've been navigated to the next tier somehow. But when we got invited to be the single for the Spider-Man soundtrack, Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, that was when I went like, all right, this changes sort of the...
Wait, Vindicated, right?
Vindicated changed the trajectory of my life in a way that was apparent to me in the now. I was like, oh, wow, okay, this sort of like solidifies you as a career. Like this will be a career. That thing we talked about in the beginning where it was like, can I do this job? Can this as a job? Can this be something that lasts like as a career? First, it was like, can it ever be done as a part-time job?
Yeah.
And then can it be done as a full-time job? And then like this was a whole new thing. Can it be done as a career? And I didn't know, I always had this thing where like bands only last 5 years. That's what I thought. It looked like I got another 5 years. It turned out to be another, I don't know, a total of more than 20 now.
And it's, again, I've said this probably twice already. It's bigger and better than ever. And this record, which I hope everyone just starts on note number 1 and listens through it. It is, all your songs are honest, but you can feel it so much in this album. It's so good. Your voice is just, as always, wonderful. Is it cool if I ask you about your motorcycle accident?
Sure.
I don't know if you've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat.
Okay, so that was in what, June of 2020?
It was in June, June of 2020.
June of 2020. What the heck happened?
It was an accident, like in its truest sense. I was on a roadway. I'm off and on. There was a piece of debris from a previous car accident there that hadn't been cleared. And as I don't have a great memory of, but this is how it was explained to me. A piece of that debris got up in the fork of my motorcycle. I went over the bars and slammed into the concrete, into the pavement. And I was pretty badly injured. And this was in the the early stages. We were in lockdown still, I believe, at least in my county. We were still in lockdown. So, or maybe just out of it, but certainly hospitals were. So it was just a weird idea to even be in a hospital. It was an isolating experience. But anyway, the accident was the injuries were severe. The accident was unexpected. It's been a long recovery process.
Because of physical therapy and the mental part of it as well.
Physical therapy, that dealing with the trauma of it all, the rigorous effort it's taken to learn how to play guitar again.
Oh my God, Chris.
Then that was like the icing on the cake, because first you have to learn how to brush your teeth, and then you have to learn how to like lift your arms up, and then you have to learn how to dress yourself and all these things. So I just want to start this conversation, yes, with the. It's important to say I just feel so good and lucky and happy, and like I don't look back at the accident with grief or sadness. I surely wish it hadn't happened, but it is, as these things will do, it has given me a deep, deep appreciation for life and the opportunity to keep living it.
Did you break your arms? Your
so
shoulders?
I broke both. This is bilateral. I broke humerus, collarbones. I shattered the bones that keep there's a small bone, I should know these names for all the doctor's visits I've had, that keeps your shoulder in place when it's dislocated. I shattered that one. So everything had to be rebuilt. Plus, some of the muscles were lacerated in the accident, but also then they have to lacerate the muscles to fix fix the injury. So what am I? I've got plates and screws and pins. I mean, the screw number is in the, I don't know. Actually, I can't remember. I'll show you the X-ray one day. It's pretty wild.
Did the doctors ever say to you that we don't know if you're going to be able to play guitar again? Did that conversation happen?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There was the higher functionality was not a given. And it wasn't until this was all at Vanderbilt in Nashville, which is an incredible hospital. If you have to be injured, it's an incredible hospital. The staff there from end to end were just incredible, all the way through my recovery with which continues still, I guess. But specifically, so I did one of these testimonials they might do for a hospital. They filmed me having a conversation about the doctors, Dr. Lee specifically, my surgeon, and they interviewed him. And I saw it, and that's the first time, and he expressed the amount of doubt he had that they could get me back together in the first place. And that was a tough one. I don't know that I knew that severity, that they didn't know that they could save my shoulders at all. But they didn't make it rosy, I can tell you that. They didn't put a real shine on it when they were telling me about what I was facing.
So happy for you. Thanks to the doctors and that you're going to go do all these shows, man. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, I tell you what, I had my first show of the year the other day was in 2 nights ago. It was in New York. And at the end of the show, I often do this. I lift my guitar up over my head. I'm doing it now. Like my arm went up, but it just like, I did a couple shows last year, and I remember thinking, like, is it going to get up? Am I gonna raise this guitar all the way? Is it going to fall over when I do? Will I be able to move my arm tomorrow if I do this? And I didn't think about it at all in this moment the other day, and I held it up, and there's a picture of me from behind holding it up, and that's when I thought about, could you? That's the only time I thought about like the success rate of that. Will I? Because I can now. I just can. And that was a beautiful moment to have had on stage.
And you have your perspective has changed as a result of this, you said? The way you appreciate life. Is it you appreciate career or just life and living and that sort of colors of the sky or a bunny rabbit walking by or what?
I mean, I think it's all things. I mean, certainly life. I mean, to know that like I can embrace my children and my wife, and to know that I can do housework or yard work, to know that I can do my work, to know that I can, just kind of be like a fully realized human being in the face of what could have happened, certainly just makes you appreciate all things with with a hell of a lot more gratitude. And I actually think I went through life with a pretty deep awareness of how important gratitude was. I'm surprised I could have had that deepened. I'm glad that to find that I could.
Thank you for sharing all that. Something happier. Who taught you to play guitar? You? The internet? A teacher?
Me. It's the worst idea to teach yourself, I think, in hindsight. And I only say that now because when I had one of the biggest challenge was learning how to play guitar again, and I had to go down the road of taking lessons and continue to.
Wow.
And man, what a trip that was to understand suddenly. Well, to have an opportunity to undo all your bad habits was great with the knowledge you've built for yourself. Here's the plus of having taught myself guitar. I came up with my own voicings for things that probably are unconventional. I came up with my own the best I could do kind of sound, and made that really a strong thing. I wonder if I'd ever found the sound I have had I taken. I think it's unlikely if I'd taken lessons if that was, which wasn't available to me. It wasn't this vaulted idea of like, that's not punk rock, although that wasn't at the time, like, and you weren't supposed to, but I couldn't have afforded it anyway. So it is what it is in that regard. And I think where it led me down the road of was songwriting, because I had no way to learn how to learn other people's songs. But I could figure out this chord and then that chord and see if I could weave a melody in between them. Now, as a more learned guitar player that I gained over the course of a lifetime of playing with people also, which is lessons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this year and a half, I guess, of guitar lessons, or maybe it's a year once I was able to start. I feel like, wow, I wasted a lot of time not having lessons. You know what I did do? I did go a few years before this. I shouldn't say I never had lessons. I think at about 30 or something like that, I kind of wished I had taken lessons just for the experience, not for like what they could teach me. So I went to like a local music store and I like signed up for lessons. And I like was waiting there with like the other 11-year-olds, you know?
No.
And, you know, I took about probably a total of like 10, and it was really fun. But after about the 5th lesson, they were like, can we put your poster back up here? Because they'd seen me come in sheepishly to ask, you know, about lessons. And I didn't give my real name. It was in my hometown of Florida.
Okay.
And I didn't cop to who I was. I didn't want to lead with that. I was just like, I have some bad habits. I want to take some lessons. And the guys knew who I was immediately, but I think they thought like, let's make this dummy feel comfortable. And they took that. And I want to tell you, it was a poster. It was like a huge poster. It was like one of those promo things. And, and he like literally, he's like, can we just put this back up? And I had a great laugh over that one, but that was a fun experience too.
Did you play other bands' songs in the lessons?
No.
No,
I should have asked to like learn hands down, and they've been like, this guy's the greatest student we've ever had. No, I don't remember at that time doing that. I learned some probably, who knows what I learned. It was technical stuff at the time.
Okay.
I wasn't learning other people's songs, which I've had a fun, I've always loved that as a coursework for learning guitars, like learning other people's songs that later, once after those early days, I've made covers records and stuff like that. You really learn a lot about it. So I encourage anybody learning guitar to spend some time teaching themselves, to spend some time studying with a teacher, and then to spend a good amount of time learning other people's songs in the way you hear them, which is different than the right way.
What is and you can pass on this question, what is your favorite song as we sit here today on the new album? Wow. It may change in a month when you're playing these songs, when you're on the road with Jimmy World, like you never know.
Yeah, I think I know which song is going to be my favorite once we get out there and we're playing with Jimmy World, because there's an adrenalized song on there that I particularly like for the setting. But as I sit here, a man far from home, missing his family, you know, I wrote a song called Me and Mine, which is the first really open. I've been protective about my family's rights to have a private life if they haven't chosen to have a public life.
Right.
And my wife hasn't. Certainly my kids have no say in the matter in their ability to choose now. I mean, they're not toddlers or anything like that, but you don't have that choice when you're young if your parents are popular in the medium. So I was careful of that. I thought like this should be everybody's to choose for themselves. And I've been really lucky that my fan base has just kind of like it's this tacit agreement. They don't really ask too much in detail. Everybody knows. It's not like this thing you should try to keep secret, but they seem to understand, oh, okay, these people seem to value this. Let's allow them to, which is a real gift. But that's kept me from writing very much specifically about how it feels to be a father or a husband until a song on this record called Me and Mine.
Wow.
And that was, wow. I couldn't resist it any longer. Even though in the position I'm in this family, I am the one who's supposed to be protecting their right to have that. I couldn't fully do it anymore. The draw was the passion I feel for that role I play, or that responsibility I get to have in that beautiful reward. It's on display here finally.
Do they really know what you do for a living at this point? They do.
Oh yeah.
Do they have a favorite song? Do they think you're good? Do they say you stink?
I think they say all of those things. I think that they are they're too talented for their lineage. I can't understand how they're so musically gifted. And their taste is pretty high-minded in music.
Really?
And
wow.
I hope
You hope they become scientists, not musicians, or you want them to be musicians?
I do, actually. I think, wouldn't it be amazing if they were like a CFO who played guitar at night or something like that, or drums at night, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think that will be their lot in life. I think they'll be, by what I see, I think they'll have to chase it. But I hope they like you know what? I know they like my music now, and they're old enough to have their own taste, and so they like some of the songs and they don't like other songs, and they're supportive. I wonder all the time, would they like this music if I wasn't their dad? You know? I can only hope.
Okay, question. Appreciate the artwork. Again, as we are sitting here today, the album comes out in like 6 hours from now. But what are these Polaroids? What's this guitar? Is there a story behind this?
Yeah, there's been a theme of Polaroids through my career. So I was working with the art director, Nick Steinhardt, who is a generational talent, in my opinion. As a musician, too. He's in Touche Amore. And just incredible guitar player as well and writer. That is my main guitar, a photograph of my main guitar overlaid with this some pictures he took of a flowering tree, and it's really spoke to his understanding of like what the band has been from its inception. And so of course it's collaboration when you do artwork with somebody, but I have to give him credit that this thing landed almost fully formed in a way that it's hard to like appreciate. I'm not a visual artist, and I've already written an interpretation of what this thing feels like. That's the songs you hear, and he's got this visual interpretation of what it feels like that I think is as accurate as I could have hoped for. Really, it's kind of like I get slack-jawed when I look at it.
Yeah. All right, man. How about we wrap it right there? I mean, I think we're almost an hour in. I mean, there's so many more things to get to, but this is an exciting day for you. Kimmel is tomorrow. The album's coming out in a few hours. We'll see you in Vegas for When We Were Young, and you're going to be, is it a co-headlining show with Jimmy Eat World? Or how does that work, co-headlining? You trade off?
Not on this one. I think we're going to play, they're going to close on this one. Sometimes you trade.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you close. I don't ever really, I don't know how those decisions are made or why.
Flip a coin before you get to the city.
Yeah, I've never much cared about that. As long as we all get to play.
Yeah.
That's
that
what I'm
is
there
a
for.
tour. That is going to be one freaking sing-along from first note to last note.
If one man could have picked his dream band to play with, it would have been me picking that band.
Are you serious?
I'm so excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, Chris, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Trevor.
That was, I'm very grateful that you came over here, and this is a day I'm never going to forget, so thank you.
Good day.
All right. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Tuna on Toast. For Chris, I am Stryker. Happy snuggles. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed. Now hit that subscribe button, and for more Tuna on Toast, listen wherever you get your podcasts.